Hey, folks, we're back. And as Alan said, it may surprise you to learn that there was a security incident involving old Microsoft software. This time it's SharePoint. And apparently it involves on premises instances of SharePoint. And Chris, I'm going to start with you and your reaction on this whole thing. But I'm kind of sitting here just scratching my head a little bit, going, who in his right mind is running on premises editions of 30-year-old software?
Well, yeah, he did mention the U.S. government, so I that stands as that. But lots of critical infrastructure as well. Let's not pick on anybody too much. But it's fascinating. So yesterday, in exactly this context, this story came up, and on Alan Friedman's CISA SBOM working group meeting, which he announced he's leaving yesterday, so we all know that now, and next week will be the last one. But it's been this 5-minute time over small talk. And since it's a public meeting, I'll say I apologize, my friend John. Sorry if you're watching this, but he brought this up right in the beginning, and I decided to take the curmudgeon approach knowingly and say what we had said on this show a couple of weeks ago about there was like 16 billion or trillion passwords stolen in another breach of the whatever. And in that conversation, we said, does this matter? And so in that 5 minutes, I reflected that back to them and said, we were just talking about this in the show. And it's like, honestly, yes, of course. I mean, again, right. I'm shocked. So how much does it matter? And, so in respect to John, I get it. And it is big, but, isn't this kind of what we expect to see all the time? To your question, Mike, who's running this old stuff? We kind of know, federal agencies, railroads, public, what's the patching? None. Is it going to be vulnerable to and exploited by the? Yeah. So what do we do next? It's just old hat at this point. But again, I think we have the tools to go forward. We just need to spend more time talking about those and less talking about breaches.
If I could just add, though, Chris, I think one of the things that I believe that we've seen being cybersecurity folks is that oftentimes breaches can be almost like test beds. Like, what can I do? And that's what I feel like I see when I read about this situation. And the other concerning thing is the attack methodology, the way they did the, lateral movement, which is, it's not that we haven't seen lateral movement. It's not that we haven't seen, privilege access and gain, all those parts of the methodology of attacks. But it to me, it was almost brilliant that they have to, right?
Well, it exacerbates my point. This is why I said it this way, and because I normally not the mic on the call, right? And I just saw this one coming up, and I thought I'm just gonna make a big noise and say we're not talking about it, rah, rah. But you're right, it's a beautiful one. But in that room, and particularly at the end of 7 years of conversations with Alan, led by Alan and Josh Corman and all these wonderful people, and we're gonna spend this because I knew Alan was leaving. And we enjoy these things. And we're going to go there again on this, spend the whole 5 minutes talking about another breach, even if it's that beautiful, instead of saying everything we've been building so far actually gets to that. The whole point is that not only can people get away with pedantic, silly cybersecurity and narrative, attacks, they have our whole career, but we're right at the point where even something like that, in a supply chain conversation where we're just finishing up on the software inventory, the software bill of material, the whole SBOM thing, and it's not finished, but it's embedded in the plan. It's everywhere. What's the next step? The next step is systems that are aware enough that even that sort of thing, where there's really smart people on the other side, isn't so obviously going to work. It always works.
And why isn't it obviously going to work? I'll tell you why. Because
I think
Chris, I'm going to tell you why. Me, you, Mitch, Mike, Kate, probably most of the people watching this live in a tech bubble. We know what we do when we're talking about MCP servers and agentic AI and SBOMs and all of these things. We know exactly what we're talking about. What we forget is that the civilians out there don't. And no matter how much time we spend talking about SBOMs and generative AI and tech bros and all of the things that we spend our days talking about, we can't lose sight of the fact that a lot of parts of this world run on 30-year-old software. They don't give a damn about VMware Cloud Foundation 9.0. Moving to the cloud versus a cloud native architecture versus monolithic. They don't know. They got something called SharePoint that they've been using for 20 plus years. That's all that matters to them. And so I've seen this in tech in my whole career. While we live in this bubble of early adopter, most of the world lives in that second 35% of the mainstream. Right?
But again, this is, we all know this. Everything you said, you and I know, we all complain about all the time. It's all true. And I would posit that we've built systems that are now at the point of being able to take that into account. No, we're not going to get everybody to get rid of their SharePoint. That's not the answer, obviously. And no, we're not going to shame them all into doing. But I think we have enough pieces. And with agentic AI and all these, no one part is magic. Firewalls aren't the solution. But history doesn't literally repeat forever. It rhymes for a long time. And if it's annoying enough, we get the harmonics tuned out. And I think these problems are so extreme and we're at such a point, but we have enough of the right tools that I think old folks like you and I, Alan, can maybe see the end of it, in our lifetimes and maybe even our careers. We'll see.
Alan, out there somewhere is this. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
I'm of a completely different opinion. I'm going to be extreme. If you were running software that's more than 30 years old and you get hacked, I'm kind of willing to say we should just find your ass into oblivion and you may be subject to jail time.
The only problem, Mike, is that a lot of our the energy grid actually has Microsoft XP. So I hate to say that, but it means that we would be going into the dark.
This is out there somewhere is somewhere out there is an IBM XT computer running VisiCalc supporting some dude's office. Or
OS2 Warp, right?
Now, I loved OS2 Warp. Don't go there. I still think it's better than Windows, but
DOS 3.1, baby.
But it is. I mean, this is the world we live in, right? I mean, a lot of industrial manufacturing, if they work by if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
They're right. Right? As a security person, I say otherwise, but you're a little tiny electric co-op in Warner Robins, Georgia, and the backhoe operator is the IT person, and go ahead and sue them. They're not afraid and they shouldn't.
All this stuff is broken and we know it. It's called reckless disregard for the facts.
I love old cars and machines, and they're always broken a little bit. My boats are always broken a little bit, but I sail them thousands of miles.
So you hit.
But look, it happens, right? So if you're using SharePoint, make sure. I think there's a patch out, but it's not for every SharePoint. It doesn't close the whole thing off.
You need to harden your system too.
Alan, I'm sorry, but that's not just the point, right? It's not just the patch. It's they actually have to do some extra serious steps on this situation. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and it's time. It's time for the checkup. Chris?
Well, let me get specific for a second, right? This is literally where AI can help, right? If you have a sophisticated AI working with you as a teammate, and you're looking at communication structures, and you ask the question, like you would of somebody who can get you the answers, is it possible to deal with this issue at this small co-op or these 6 co-ops that I'm dealing with? And you can get an answer, then the answer is yes. And now I'm guessing as you go through that, you'll write a lot of scripts, you'll build a lot of stuff, but you'll find that takes about 3 hours. And you'll have some system that isn't going to replace those, but will give you enough visibility that you can have a operational level of comfort with it. And I see that, to our point. Mitch, I can see we can't. This is not about AI. This is about using these tools, these systems for things. Pick one. This is a good one. If somebody does it, in 90 days, I guarantee they'll have a textbook for us.
And to Mike's point, maybe it's just time to retire that.
The SharePoint. I thought that Microsoft, I forget what they call their SharePoint thing now. But anyway.
I think as soon as that AI agent discovers it's running in a SharePoint environment, it's going to be asked to turn off. So forget it.
What it'll do is it'll build a business justification to get the budget or not, instead of just being this thing that people don't want to talk about. That's of course you didn't want to retire the old stuff, but I see the fault in our community of just walking up to people who have been running something for 27 years and saying, tear that out, without saying, oh, you have budget and the budget is controlled by local political, whatever it is, right? These agents, these teammates we can bring in will give us that clarity so we can look at it and say the solution is tear it out, buy a new one, put a pack, whatever it is.
It's not even a question of budget and all that. It's what people are comfortable with. If they're comfortable, right, and they don't like to use this stuff. All right, hey, but we're out of time. So we're going to pull the plug on this version of TechStrong Gang. I hope you've enjoyed it. We've got our usual TechStrong TV coverage immediately following, so check that out. We'll be back tomorrow on Wednesday with fresh topics and more gang folks. But until then, this is Alan Schimmel for TechStrong Gang. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We're out.